Namaste and welcome everyone. Welcome back to Miracles with a Twist Conversations. I'm Reverend Lori Cardona. I'm here with Reverend Lisa Benton.
Hey.
Hi. Known affectionately as Goddi Lisa. Thank you for being with us. We really are looking forward to the conversations that will include those of you who are attending and watching. It's not just between Goddi Lisa and I, it also includes you. We're here to unpack and dig deep on issues that are related to A Course in Miracles and themes that come up during the Miracles with a Twist live stream. We apply it to everyday spirituality from an interfaith perspective. Goddi Lisa and I are both ordained interfaith ministers. So thank you so much for being here. We look forward to how this day's discussion will unfold. Welcome, Goddi Lisa.
Thank you so much, RevLo. It's wonderful to see you, and it's wonderful to be here with everybody that I can't see. I was thinking about the past couple of months with Miracles with a Twist Conversations, of which we are a spinoff. And for, I guess it was pretty much the whole month of May and the month of June, we spoke of forgiveness.
Yes.
And it was it appeared to be on so many levels, forgiveness, when actually, to me, forgiveness is forgiveness. But there was a particular lesson that really resonated with me. And I just would like to share that with you and our listeners, because it worked for me like this in forgiveness. And it's lesson 161 in the manual, in the
workbook.
The workbook, yes.
The Course in Miracles is divided into three parts. In case anybody's new to us, it's divided into three parts. There's a text, which is the metaphysical teachings. There's the workbook, which is the practical applications of the teachings, and then there's the manual for teachers. And we've been all over the place this year and last year as well. And you're referring to, there you go, combined volume. You're referring to the past 2 months. We did concentrated work on forgiveness based on, I believe it was about 8 lessons.
Yeah,
so you were talking about workbook lesson 161.
Right, and it's on page 305. It's paragraph 11 that I'm going to talk about. But it's in the lesson, and in many lessons, those who are experienced know this. Those who aren't, I'm letting you know that many of the lessons contain very specific practices. Some are a little more general, but some are very specific. And this one had, first of all, I think it's important to let you know what the title of the lesson was. Give me your blessing, Holy Son of God. Now, we have to keep in mind, Holy Son of God is the body of Christ, or all of us, oneness, the unity of all. So
the Course refers to it as the sonship.
Exactly.
It's our companions on
has nothing to do with gender or anything or individuality. We are one. We are unique waves in the ocean. And so it's give me your blessing, Holy Son of God. And now what you're supposed to do in this give me your blessing, the Holy Son of God, is to pick a person that rubs you the wrong way, gets under your skin, whatever. And as I'm saying this, I know anyone listening already has somebody that has come to their head.
Yeah.
So I was dealing with a person that even the name of the person just set off all kinds of craziness in my head. And I don't know this person, but I know this person in my head. I've got this person's whole life laid out in front of me before I even heard of this person. So the lesson, the specific direction is to imagine this person. Close your eyes and imagine this person. See this person. Picture this person's eyes, their mannerisms, just the way they dress. Really look at them. And then the kicker is, once you've gotten to this space where you're really connected with this person, you say to this person, what you are, or this is what you think, what you are seeing now as you look at this person conceals from you the sight of one who can forgive you all your sins. So here I am looking at a person who just rubs me the wrong way, and I am going to ask this person to bless me so that I am relieved of all my sins. And now we need to keep in mind too, that's very important, the word sin. We've discussed it in previous videos, but it's very important, I think, to point it out now. It is not an abomination. It is not an attack. It's something that is in need of correction. Okay, so here I am looking at this person, looking at every inch of this person, and ultimately looking into the heart of the person with my heart. And I found myself doing this because I had nothing else to do but to look at this person. So I had to see the unity in us. And I asked this person to bless me. And I did it in a completely non-judgmental way. And it absolutely, every bit of judgment and anger, frustration, and everything that I had went away immediately. Did I automatically start thinking, oh, this person isn't as bad as I thought I was, or whatever, or this person's ideas aren't that bad, or, none of that went through my head. I had connected on a soul level with someone who I had never met, who I had never stopped judging just by looking at this person's face. And it was truly a miracle. That is forgiveness. That is forgiveness. I had this person forgive me. And because of my judgments, I had laid all this stuff on this person, and it made me crazy. Did the person know that, here this person in Palm Coast is going crazy and wacky and, just making everybody around her annoyed? No. And so it served no purpose. So I actually was able, just like that, because I allowed Spirit to do through me what's already there, which is to connect with everybody that's in my path. And I never had to felt compelled to change my thoughts about practices of that person, or the way I practice things, or what I think, or what this person thinks, but we were connected. And that was, I would say, 20 days ago. I'm thinking of the number of lessons where we are. And so it had to be at least 20 days ago, and it just doesn't happen anymore. I still see this person all the time, and I am still not on board with certain things, a lot of things, but there is no monkey mind that goes on. And that is so wonderful. And to me, that was just perfect forgiveness. And when we met this past Thursday, you did a really neat thing, wrapping up forgiveness and moving on in another way to forgiveness. But it's just, I had to talk about it, and I had to say thank you for the 2 months of forgiveness, because I didn't think I'd have to work on it that long, but I do, and I still do. And so I would now like to ask you to please share with everybody that you shared with us on Miracles with a Twist on Thursday. Sure. Your absolutely stunning artistry.
Yeah, so thanks. Over the years, I've drawn pictures to correlate with the lessons, and I always say this is, these are 5th grade quality drawings, but I think they make their point. But first, let me step back a little bit and review some of forgiveness from a course perspective, because what you're saying in this exercise was exactly what A Course in Miracles is asking us to do. We could sum it all up with the process that you just discussed. So to be clear, last week we talked about A Course in Miracles being a mystic's path, even though the Course never uses those words, but it talks about Christ consciousness, which is a mystic's path. It's about what we are doing with our minds and how we are living our lives based on where our minds go, and how our behavior follows our minds. We think about things, we formulate ideas and judgments, and then we decide on action. And the Course is always telling us to give that a second thought, because if it's not loving and kind, if it's not an act of love, then that's where the shift in perception has to come in. And then the conclusion of the miracle is how we perform and interact in the world, how we interact with people we know or who we don't know, like someone that you see on television or a politician or whatever, who's tripping your judgment meter, your anger meter, whatever the agitation you were experiencing, and sometimes still exists. So forgiveness, I started by saying forgiveness is forgiveness, but in A Course in Miracles, it's not the worldly forgiveness. It's not about I stand in judgment of you and now you have to wait for me to forgive you, because you might be like in your case, you're in judgment of somebody who doesn't even know you're in judgment of them, so they're not waiting for your forgiveness. Yeah. They don't even, they're not moved by what's going on in your mind. So A Course is always telling us that it really is about what's going on in our own mind. And so the forgiveness process does have to start with ourselves, the realization of where our minds are going, how far we are going into thoughts of separation and condemnation and judgment and anger. And that's what we are responsible for. We're always responsible for how we interpret what we see in the world, how we show up. How we show up. Absolutely. That's not to say that we don't have our human emotions, because we do. It's just, what do we do with it? There's so much. I mean, I don't know when people are actually going to see this, but on this date, we're talking to each other on July 5th, and on July 4th, there was a shooting in Chicago at the beginning of a parade. And so, we get exhausted with the news. We get outraged by the news. We feel helpless at times, helpless and hopeless. And often our initial response is outrage and anger. And so what do those of us who are dedicated to shifting our conscious and being of sacred presence in the world, we talk about that a lot, like what can we do? But we need to find out what we can do through our inner reflection, through prayer time, through our community involvement with our sacred brothers and sisters. So what you're referring to is this drawing that I did. I mean, I don't know if anybody can see it, but it has a process, and I've redrawn each one of these to sort of explain it. So our human response may be outrage, right? We start out outraged and upset, and then we wonder, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with our outrage? And so I made up a word, but it seems to work for the A Course in Miracles. I don't know if they're going to put an addendum in their glossary of terms for this word, but
it's a very holy word. It really is. It's a very deep word.
Well, I said the next thing we need to do is get engaged. So we need to go within. After our outrage, right? Think of the word outrage. It's out, rage, out. We're outraged. We're enraged by what is out there. So we have to bring it back in and get inwardly gazed. Let's look within. Who am I? The whole Ho'oponopono prayer is all about, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and I thank you, because it's saying that everything in the world, everything, even wars and shootings, no matter what it is that you see out there, somehow there's an energetic exchange. And so we want to pull away any energy that we have ever contributed to that would be an act of violence, even if it was an unkind word, sure. Even if it was, a struggle with another human being, we're still adding to the negative currency out there. And so, Thich Nhat Hanh has that beautiful poem that he wrote years and years ago about how he says, don't call me by my name, call me by these other names. And it's, the good guy, the bad guy, the one who is at war, the one who is warred upon. Those aren't his words, but that's the concept. And these mystical path perspectives always ask us to look back. Yeah. Look back. How are we a part? That doesn't mean we're not outraged by the social injustice, the racial injustices, the killings. It just means that we need to get direction as to what we're going to do with our outrage. So
and I think that's essential, and that's what I love about your presentation, is that it's not saying it's okay. It's not that's not it. It's just, what good is my outrage into the collective where I'm praying for peace in anger?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
So the next step is to get inwardly gazed. And then our guidance, hopefully through true listening, introspection, will learn and be guided in the direction in which we can engage with the world, with society, with the places where we can be of assistance. Maybe it'll tell us to go join a march and have our voices heard loud. Maybe it'll tell us to go to a soup kitchen and be of service there. And you think, well, what's that got to do with anything? It's about being of service. It's about shifting our perspective so we're not focusing on violence so that it affects us. Thich Nhat Hanh had this wonderful quote. He said that after one of the bombings of his school during the Vietnam War, he had built a school and the school got bombed. And he said one of his monks came in and they found him like this. And they said, "Are you crying?" And he said, no, I'm praying so that my soul doesn't leave me in anger. Wow. And I thought, wow, I'm just praying. I'm bringing myself within, because if I engage in the anger and the outrage, then I will be more propelled toward things that are not helpful.
And that reminds me of the phrase that we hear so often: all we can do is pray. All we can do, or the only thing we can do is pray. Everything we can do is pray. When you spoke about helping out in a soup kitchen or going somewhere to help people in need, sometimes we can't do that. We can pray, we can meditate, we can see peace instead of this. And so we are always in control of our thoughts and our minds.
Yes.
We may not think we are, but we are.
Yeah, and we don't want to trivialize any of what is going on when it's going on, because, when you hear politicians, and I'm sorry to have to, focus on a group, but often they'll say, well, we send our thoughts and prayers. And now it's gotten to where people are saying your thoughts and prayers aren't enough. Let's have some action. But for those of us who are truly in a state of wanting to shift our own selves, peace and prayer is what's going to get us there. And peace and prayer is what's going to propel us to doing some sort of activism or work in some way to be of assistance that will not come from a place of anger. I know people who've been involved with all sorts of issues. You and I are products of a rebellion age,
Absolutely.
So they're, we've seen it, and people paved the way. There's people who've paved the way because they went out there and they walked the streets and they shouted and they affected change. There's a place for everyone. There's a place for all of us. I know that, I've been in women's marches, to protect our rights and that sort of thing. And so there's the part of us that's social. There's a part of us that's mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. So we have to look at all those 5 aspects of ourselves to see how we want to engage with whatever it is that's going on. But the Course always tells us that before we do that, we need to stop and get direction.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, Spirit will guide us. We will know what we are supposed to do next if we sit quietly just for a moment and listen. We will be guided. It might be continue to sit still. It might be get in your car. You saw where they were donating blood today, or there was a blood drive, or there's something going on in the community that just came to your mind. But it didn't really come to your mind. It was always there. And Spirit guides us.
Yeah, and the holy instant that we spoke about in another session together is that place where we have this moment of revelation. Yeah. A Course in Miracles talks about the miraculous transformation of our minds that occurs when we are engaged in that process of interaction and engagement with other people. But the revelation comes from those moments of quiet, those moments of complete and total dedication to the word of Spirit, to the guidance of Spirit. And so that's why, one of my taglines when we do Miracles with a Twist is pray harder to rise higher, and then we can love steadily and forgive readily. Like those are the things that we're dedicated to as students of a course or students of any dedicated spiritual path, because it's not just about talk. It's not just about saying what we say because it sounds good or because the lesson seems really powerful. It's about applying it like you did. And in your case, you actually felt the shifting and the opening of your heart. And it doesn't mean you fell in love with this person and started following them. It was just that you withdrew the depth of your disdain for them. And
exactly.
just imagine that's just a process. My disdain was so deep, that it wasn't hurting that person, it was hurting your own spirit. And so you work toward the shifting of that, because a lot of people think that, oh, if I forgive, that gives that person a pass. Well, it doesn't. If you forgive, what you find is you start moving away the layers of hardness of your own heart, just shifting those layers. In the Sufi tradition, we have these layers that get to the true soul of who we are. And it's ego, it's personality, it's emotions, it's all these thoughts that we've created. The Buddhists call it our mental constructs. Yes. Well, how are we going to get to the soul of anything if we let that guide us? That's right. We have a choice. We can let all that guide us, or we can let the depth of our being guide us. And that's something that we have to get to through practice. Yeah. Disciplined practice of looking for that holy instant and that guidance.
Yeah.
So forgiveness, like you said, we talked about it for 2 months because we were concentrating on very specific lessons, but it's forever. It's forever. It is ongoing, and the text talks about it, the workbook talks about it, the manual for teachers talks about it, and we'll continue to talk about it. In our Miracles with a Twist conversations. We will pick up on whatever lessons were provided and presented in Miracles with a Twist, which is the live stream on Thursdays. So this conversation, for example, gives people food for thought, and it also gives them the opportunity to share their thoughts, right? Because we'll have a place in the comments where they can write to us and let us know what more they'd like us to talk about, because these are snippets. I mean, this time together, it's just these little brief opportunities to unpack and dig deep, but we can keep going deeper and deeper. We want to keep digging deeper.
Absolutely. And it's this, like you said, this is just a little snippet, and we need to hear from other people about what's resonating with them, either in conjunction with what we're saying, or maybe there's a question about something that they don't agree with, or they want to make a comment kindly but succinctly. We want to hear it. We have our email, we have our comment section, so they're there for a reason. And I really do want to hear from everybody, because I think at this time in particular, and that's where we are at this time. So what do we do with ourselves in these times, regardless of where we fall on the spectrum of anything? What do we do with ourselves to keep us connected? Because we are. So to stay in that flow of divine connection, our birthright, is so peaceful and loving and wonderful. And we can still say, no, this is not acceptable to me. I need to do this, or I need to do that, or whatever. We have that right. We have so many rights, but we need to take care of ourselves first. And forgiveness is a big part of that. is
It really
forgiving
is.
ourselves.
It really is. It can be a burden to carry.
Yes.
I had a cleansing ceremony out on the beach. Every month, LMC Ministries does a beach ceremony, and we had a discussion on forgiveness. And there was a woman there who said, "Well, it's been my companion. It's been my,
Yes.
like I have carried this around." And the companion was, the thoughts about the person. Basically, she's carrying that person.
Yeah.
And we talked about what would it take to relieve yourself of that heaviness. That companion that you've been carrying is the upset from, maybe for her, I think she said it was like 25, 30 years ago. And she was carrying it because she didn't know how to let it go. And so we don't want to just sort of, flippantly say, let it go. We're saying it's a process. It's a process of truly looking at the possibility of your peace through releasing and praying and focusing on your own peace, finding the peace within yourself. And these things start to become deconstructed. They start to fall away because you're not putting so much value and attention onto them. And it's not a snap of the finger,
No, and we don't have to give up our true, deeply held beliefs. We don't have to give them up or pretend we don't have them or whatever. They become more powerful because we've taken the time to forgive ourselves, love our neighbors, regardless of how anybody feels. But it empowers us to stay true to our souls, our hearts. So which, are expressed in different ways in different people, but we're all one, and it's great.
Yeah. And that's where we ultimately want to get to, is that understanding, and that we are all one. And I don't know if we did this when you were in seminary, but I kind of think it was your class when we were doing the work with the pendulum and the crystals, and
yes.
We were doing energy circles, and we started noticing that different people's energy centers were different. Some were clogged up at the solar plexus, and some at the heart, but then we found that once we tested energy at the crown chakra, everyone was exactly the same.
Yeah,
exactly the same.
Yep.
And we talked about the fact that it's not a pleasant image, but if you put Charles Manson next to Mother Teresa, when they were alive, their energy centers would be different, but once you got to the crown chakra, they'd all be the same. Why? Because that's where the universe connects. And regardless of whatever reason things are happening in this world that have been horrible, horrendous, or wonderful and exciting and joyful, there's a reason why it's happening at this time in our lives. There's a reason why Spirit breathed life into everyone. We're watching the script unfold, and it's up to us. It's up to us to affect any kind of change we can possibly influence by changing our own minds first, by changing our minds, by changing our hearts, by coming from our heart when we interact with even our own thoughts. We are responsible for how much entertainment we allow. The Course says there's only one thing you can control. There's only one kingdom you have, and that's your mind. So, we're here to do the best we can, and to be gentle with ourselves, to be gentle with each other, and to remember that there's a unity of consciousness that we can all tap into. And the more we do that, the more we'll be able to find peace. So, they say peace begins within and begins with me. With peace and love, we can change the world. With peace and love, we're making a new world.
Yep. Yeah.
As best we can. So, there's so much more to say about forgiveness, but we would like to keep these short so that people have time to stop and think and interact with us. And so I would like to offer my gratitude for everyone's presence and ask you to please give us a prayer to end our time together.
Okay. I'd like to I want to thank everybody, like RevLo just said. I'd like to thank you all for being here with us, and I hope that we stimulated something in you, and I hope that you will please feel free to share anything with us. Always be kind, always come from your best place, but don't hold back with how you feel, because we really do want to know. We are a family. So if you'll please join me, and you may pray with me or meditate with me or just listen into the words. Divine Creator, show us that it is we who are instruments of your peace, and with that comes divine power. Help us to reach deeply into our hearts and set us free from all judgment, that we may then forgive completely and wholly both ourselves and others. Amen.
Oh, that's beautiful. Amen to that. Amen. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. Namaste. Don't stay away. We'll be back soon. And we're really happy to be a part of this conversation, Miracles with a Twist conversations. Thank you, Goddi Lisa.
Thanks, RevLo. Thank you, everybody.